You know, we've all heard those stories, right? Families semigrating to the Western Cape for the lifestyle. But what if I told you there's a much bigger, much more strategic migration happening right now? And it's not happening in family homes, it's happening in corporate boardrooms. This is the story of South Africa's great business migration.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at this new kind of migration. Then, we'll dig into the push and pull factors. After that, we'll check out the industrial hotspots, see why it's an investor's gold mine, and finally, we'll get practical and talk about actually making the move.
All right, let's dive right in. The first thing you've got to get is that this move isn't about chasing sea views or hitting the wine farms on weekends. Nope, this is a cold, hard, strategic decision. It's all about logistics and just trying to keep the business running smoothly.
And here's the real pivot. This isn't about personal choices anymore, it's about corporate strategy. What we're seeing is a massive increase in companies literally uprooting their entire operations from places like Johannesburg and Durban and making a beeline for the Cape.
So that brings us to the real meat of it. What on earth is causing this huge shift? Well, it's not just one thing. It's this powerful combo of forces that are pushing businesses out of some provinces and pulling them right into another.
Let's just ask the question straight up. Why would a company go through all the expense and trouble of a massive relocation? I mean, really? Well, it all comes down to a pretty simple comparison between two very, very different realities on the ground. See, on one side, you've got these major push factors. Businesses in Joburg and Durban are getting hammered by things like crippling port bottlenecks and just constant operational disruptions. It hits their bottom line hard. And on the other side, you've got the pull. The Western Cape is offering them exactly what they're desperate for: reliable infrastructure and just better service delivery so they can actually get work done. Now, what's really fascinating here is the timing. I mean, these push and pull factors aren't brand new. But right now, there's this unique set of economic conditions, kind of like a perfect storm, that's making this huge migration financially possible. First off, the rand has been getting stronger, a 13.8% gain. What does that actually mean? Well, it means more purchasing power, especially if you need to import machinery or materials. It's a huge tailwind for any business planning a big spend, making a long-term investment in a new facility way more affordable. And the second thing? Interest rates are finally starting to come down, retreating to around 10.25%. Now just imagine you're a CEO looking to finance a new multi-million rand warehouse. A drop like that in how much it costs to borrow money, that can make all the difference. It's often the last piece of the puzzle that makes the move actually happen.
Okay, so we've covered the why. Now let's talk about the where. This whole migration isn't just spread out evenly. Oh no, it is super concentrated in specific industrial areas that are basically going through a modern-day gold rush. And our first stop is Paarden Eiland. The transformation this area has seen recently is, well, it's absolutely staggering. It's become a top-tier destination for these relocating companies. The folks who analyze the market are calling it a seller's paradise, and believe me, that is not an exaggeration. The demand for industrial space here has just gone through the roof, creating an incredible market for property owners. So what's lighting the fire here? Let's break it down. First, location, location, location. It's just minutes from the port and the CBD, which for logistics is a total game changer. This has led to extremely tight industrial stock. There's basically nothing available. And what happens when demand is sky high and supply is rock bottom? You guessed it, rentals hit record highs. For a business moving from Joburg, being able to slash that transport time to the harbor is a massive win right from day one. All right, let's head over to our second case study, Epping. Now, this is more of your traditional, sprawling industrial area, but it's going through a huge identity shift, all thanks to this migration. The best way to think about Epping is that it's evolving. It's going from an old-school manufacturing hub to this sleek, high-tech distribution powerhouse. And this whole change is being driven by businesses, especially from Durban, who are just fed up with port problems and are setting up these amazing, modern logistics centers in Epping instead. All this activity, of course, brings up a really important question for anyone with an eye for investment. While the news is always full of splashy luxury home sales, the real, stable money, well, it might be hiding somewhere you're not looking. Let's just put Cape Town's two big property markets side by side. On one hand, you have the glamorous Atlantic seaboard, right? High-profile, headline-grabbing luxury sales. But then you have the industrial sector. It's what you might call the quiet gold mine, because it offers something much more valuable to a lot of investors: rock-solid tenant reliability.
And really, it all comes down to that one thing: tenant reliability. Just think about it for a second. A company that moves its entire operation, lock, stock, and barrel, from Johannesburg or Durban, they're not just signing a one-year lease. They are making a massive long-term commitment. They're in it for the long haul. And that, my friends, is absolute music to a commercial property investor's ears.
So finally, whether you're an investor buying up a warehouse or a business owner actually making the move, this big picture trend always comes down to the nitty-gritty. Let's do a quick reality check on what it actually takes. So when you get down to the paperwork, there are 3 things that are totally non-negotiable. First, you need a clear title deed. That's what proves you actually own the place. Second, a municipal clearance certificate, which is just the city saying, yep, all the bills are paid. And third, all your compliance certificates, we're talking electrical, plumbing, the works, have to be in order. Seriously, there are no shortcuts here.
So the best advice is pretty simple, and it's a little bit of a play on words. Get your bucks in a row early on. Sorting out your finances, both the money and the paperwork, way ahead of time is the only way you're going to have a smooth, successful property transfer. And that kind of wraps it up. We've seen how this whole migration is no longer just about lifestyle. It's a strategic, logistics-driven shift that's reshaping South Africa's industrial map, especially in hotspots like Paarden Eiland and Epping. Which really leaves us with one last fascinating question to chew on. With logistics and distribution leading the charge, which industry do you think will be the next to reshape the case?